There's a fine line between right and wrong. And somewhere in the shadows, they send us in to find them.
In today's video, we will be talking about all of the settings and what are the best things to change, or what settings you should be putting them on to get the best possible competitive experience for Call of Duty Modern Warfare playing on Xbox with a controller. Before we jump into all these juicy details, I want to give a quick shout out to Blake B for his comment on one of my previous videos. Alright, so now we're going to open up our menu. We're going to go to options, and under the first section will be the controller. So we're going to want to change your button and stick layouts to your preferences. This is all going to be up to you. You know, whether you're using a normal controller, you might want to play on tactical. That's going to change the melee and crouch options to make it a little easier so you can have that panic knife reaction whenever you need to, and you want to look at your stick layout presets just in case you want to switch any of those around. Now there's a lot of options on these, so go ahead and take a look and start off playing with what you think will be best for you. That way you can get used to it quicker. Alright, so the next section we're getting into is horizontal vertical sensitivities as well as your ADS sensitivity. Now Call of Duty is a fast-paced game, and you're going to need to be turning very quickly at random times. So your sensitivity is probably going to be set a little higher, so I recommend going 1 or 2 higher than you're used to and increasing it until you find a sweet spot. As far as your ADS sensitivities go, your low zoom is going to be either no zoom at all, your 1x like your reflex sights or eco sights, and then up to the sniper sights, which will be high zoom. So I recommend lowering it just a tad bit for high zoom. Anything below 1 is going to decrease your sensitivity while zoomed in. Anything above 1 will increase your sensitivity while zoomed in. So odds are, while zoomed in, you're going to want it to be either the same or slower than your normal sensitivity. So next up is the aim response curve. So I'm using linear because I have an Xbox Elite controller. So the Xbox Elite controller does have these kind of patterns and customization options built in. So I typically play first-person shooters or shooters in general. So I do have a curve already enabled on my controller. So I recommend, if you're using an Elite controller and you've made those customizations to your settings for the controller, that you also use linear. That way the game does not interfere with the settings you have. If you're not using an Elite controller, I would recommend using dynamic. That way there is the curve mapping for finer aim control. If you're not comfortable messing with the settings, then obviously you have the standard option if you just want to leave it regular. Now, controller vibration isn't pretty crazy. Again, I have an Xbox Elite controller, so I have my vibration turned down quite a bit, but I still like it there for those intense moments. So I do leave it enabled, but a regular controller, I typically would disable that. That way I don't have to deal with any vibrating when I'm shooting or receiving damage. Alright, so the next thing we're getting into is going to be the aim assist options. We have 4 different options here. We have disabled, which disables aim assist altogether. If you're playing with mouse and keyboard on any system, that's what I recommend. Standard is your typical aim assist where it slows down when you get near the target. Precision is the one I recommend no matter what you're doing, unless you're with mouse and keyboard. So precision aim is going to require your aim to already be pretty good, and you're going to have to aim near the target, and then auto aim will kick in. So that way you can get those real precise quick snapshots. And if you have good aiming, when you aim in close enough, it's going to draw your aimer even closer. So this is the one I recommend for sure. Even if your aim's not that good, I definitely still recommend putting it on. That way you can get used to it, and it will increase your aim over time. So the rest of the options on the controller tab are going to be mostly preference. We have our weapon mount activation and the different ways to activate that. We have our exiting the weapon mount, whether you can either move around to exit it or not. The aim down sight, whether it's toggle or hold to aim down. You have your equipment behavior, whether you use or reload by tapping or holding. There's a bunch of different options down here, so you're going to want to go through all of these. Personally, the only one I really wanted to change was the slide behavior because I'm used to Apex Legends, so I just want to tap the slide, not hold the slide, which is the default setting. Alright, so now we're moving into the general tab. So something I change here is going to be brightness. I want this above where it starts you off because the game is rather dark. There are a lot of dark areas in the game, and to avoid not seeing enemies in those areas, especially playing, sweaty or competitive, you want to see everything possible. So I definitely recommend turning that up, and I definitely recommend turning film grain all the way down. That way none of your gameplay is distorted. Talking about distorting your gameplay, We're also going to move to world motion blur and weapon motion blur. I highly recommend turning both of these off, and it's almost a necessity. So world motion blur is when you're running around, how blurry everything gets. And as you can see on screen, the comparison from the left side to the right side is going to make a huge difference. Imagine a sniper sitting in that window, or a guy, shooting your friend in a different direction. If the motion blur is on and you're sprinting, you probably won't see them, and that building is not far away at all. So I definitely recommend disabling that. Now, weapon motion blur, it doesn't really affect much, but I still want to keep my image nice and crisp. So I also turn this one off for my personal preference. Everything else is going to be your personal preferences on these settings here. So moving into the audio mix, if you're playing to win games, to hear footsteps, I definitely recommend boost low, because footsteps are typically going to be on the lower frequencies, so they're going to be more bassy. So increasing the bassy noises is going to allow you to hear footsteps just a little bit better. It's not a huge difference between any of these. Another one that could be good is midnight mode. It's going to reduce basically all the noises except for the important ones, being gunshots, reloading, and footsteps. Other than that, you do have a few choices here, so play around with those and see what sounds best through your headset or your TV. So next up we have our volume levels. So master volume I left all the way up. Music and dialogue I reduced a little bit. That way it doesn't drown out any of the effects. The effects volumes are going to be your in-game noises that are pretty important. So definitely leave effects all the way up. That way you don't miss out on anything. Last but not least, we have the account tab. So the biggest thing you're going to want to change over here is crossplay. Everything else is going to be personal preference. Definitely read through all of the options on all of these tabs to make sure you have everything set up the best for you, because everybody else is going to play a little bit differently. But under account, we do have the crossplay, as I mentioned. If you want it on, leave it enabled. If you don't, obviously disable it. But this is where you find that option as well. And that pretty much sums up all of the options for Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So let me know what you think about these. If you have different settings, if you prefer something a little bit different than what I recommended, go ahead and drop that in comments below, because you might help somebody else out that's looking for a really good setup, especially if your suggestions fit to what their needs are. Either way, I want to know your thoughts and opinions on all of this in the comment section below. And as always guys, if you liked the video, go ahead and leave that thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, feel free to also leave that thumbs down. And if you enjoy my content, you can also click that subscribe button to see my videos pop up in your feed. And if you want to know right away when they go live, you can also click the bell icon. And whether you clicked or didn't click, commented or didn't comment, I hope you have a good evening, afternoon, morning, night, or whatever it is, wherever you are. But thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you in my next video.